Juan Martin Botero is P8. J.Enriquez in Cup Klein Cup is 6th. Santiago J.Enriquez from Spain in Omega Cup is 8th. Juan Martin Botero is P10. Juan Martin Botero is up 15.42 in Cup Klein Cup. Juan Martin Botero is up 15.89 in blind doppel links. Andres Camilo Cardona is P3. J.Enriquez in Ingang Omega Cup is 8th. Juan Martin Acuna in Ingang Omega Cup is 1st. Santiago J.Enriquez from Spain in Coca-Cola Cup is P3. J.Enriquez in blind doppel links is P7 up 2.07. Andres Camilo Cardona is 6th up 1.85. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is provisional pole with a 112.730. Santiago J.Enriquez in blind doppel links is P7 up 0.45. Santiago J.Enriquez improved his 8th with a 1:15.559. 2.829 off pole. Santiago J.Enriquez is up 0.34 in Omega Cup. Andres Camilo Cardona in Keckenberg Cup is 5th. Santiago Idarraga in Blinda Doppel Links is 8th up 0.58. Santiago Idarraga improved his P8 with a 1:15.210. 2.480 off pole. Carlos Huertas in Keckenberg Cup is P9. Carlos Huertas improved his 9th with a 1:16.414. 3.684 off pole. Leonardo Bustamante is P7 up 0.23. Leonardo Bustamante is up 0.02 in Blinda Doppel Links. J.Enriquez in Cup Klein Cup is 7th up 0.31. J.Enriquez is up 0.44 in Farrelager 1 Cov. J.Enriquez improved his P3 with a 1:13.925. 1.195 off pole. Juan Carlos Guerin is 2nd up 0.27. Juan Martin Acuna in Keckenberg Cup is 5th. Juan Martin Acuna improved his 3rd with a 1:13.766. 1.036 off pole. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia is P2. Andres Camilo Cardona in Keckenberg Cup is P5 up 0.61. Santiago Idarraga in Sachsenring Cup is 8th up 0.43. Santiago Idarraga improved his 8th with a 1:14.627. 1.897 off pole. Juan Martin Botero in Cup Klein Cup is 6th up 0.15. Juan Martin Botero is up 0.41 in Faralager 1 Cov. Juan Martin Botero improved his fourth with a 1:13.900, 1.170 off pole. Juan Martin Acuna in blind double links is third up 0.28. Leonardo Bustamante in Sachsenring is seventh up 0.37. Leonardo Bustamante is up 0.35 in Omega Cove. Leonardo Bustamante is up 0.26 in Cove BW Sachsenring. Alejandro Arango in Ngang Omega Cove is P10. Juan Martin Botero in Carthalan Cove is P4 up 0.25. Juan Martin Botero is up 0.30 in Keckenberg Cove. Juan Martin Botero improved his third with a 1:13.654, 0.924 off pole. Andres Camilo Cardona in Cove Klein Cup is P7. Best lap is a 1:13.966, 1.236 off pole. Alejandro Arango in Ngang Omega Cove is P9. Juan Carlos Guerin in Omega Cove is P2 up 0.10. Juan Carlos Guerin is up 0.31 in Cove BW Sachsenring. Juan Carlos Guerin is up 0.12 in Keckenberg Cove. Carlos Huertas is P10 up 0.24. Carlos Huertas improved his P10 with a 1:15.735. 3.005 off pole. Andres Camilo Cardona in Coca-Cola Cup is 7th. Juan Martin Acuna in Coca-Cola Cup is P4. Juan Martin Acuna is up 0.23 in Karthalikov. Leonardo Bustamante is P6 up 0.38. J.Enriquez in Kekenberg Cup is 5th. J.Enriquez improved his 5th with a 1:13.806. 1.076 off pole. Juan Martin Acuna in Ngang Omega Cup is P4. Andres Camilo Cardona in Coca-Cola Cup is P7. Juan Martin Botero in Coca-Cola Cup is P3. Leonardo Bustamante in Sachsenring Cup is P6 up 0.10. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia in Coca-Cola Cup is P2. Juan Martin Botero in Sachsenring Cup is P3 up 0.10. Juan Martin Botero improved his 3rd with a 1:13.531. 0.801 off pole. Alejandro Arango from Colombia in Ngang Omega Cup is P9. Alejandro Arango is up 0.33 in Cup BW Sachsenbruck. Alex Borsov from Colombia in Cup Cup is P11 up 20.50. Alex Borsov is up 21.71 in blind double links. The qualifying session is now in overtime. Alex Borsov is up 19.90 in Kekenberg Cup. Leonardo Bustamante in Keckenberg Campus P6 up 0.10. Juan Martin Botero in blind double links is third. Best lap is a 1:13.531. 0.801 off pole. Alex Borsov is P11. The race session is at Sachsenring in Hohenstein, Germany. The wind speed is 7 km/h from the north-northwest. Juan Martin Acuna is P4. Director entering the pits is 16th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is first. Race start. Juan Carlos Guerin is first. Juan Martin Botero from Colombia in Coca-Cola Cup is P2. Juan Martin Acuna from Colombia in Omega Cup is P3. Andres Camilo Cardona from Colombia in Carthalan Cup is 5th. Santiago Idarraga from Spain in Blind Doppel Links is P6. Leonardo Bustamante from Colombia in Sachsenring Cup is 6th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal entering the pits is P2. Alex Borsov from Colombia in Kekenberg Cup is 9th. Santiago Idarraga entering the pits is 6th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal exiting pits. Santiago Idarraga exiting pits. Alex Borsov is now 8th. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia in Coca-Cola Cup is 9th. Best lap is a 1:42.425. 15.200 off the fastest lap. Juan Carlos Guerin passed Alex Borsov for P8. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is 8th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is now P9. Juan Martin Acuna from Colombia in Kekenberg Cup is P2, 1.4 behind Juan Martin Botero. Andres Camilo Cardona in Kekenberg Cup is 6th, 2.4 behind Alejandro Arango. Andres Camilo Cardona lost P6 to Juan Carlos Guerin. Santiago Idarraga is 8th, 0.3 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Juan Martin Acuna is P2, 0.5 behind Juan Martin Botero. Santiago Idarraga in Carthalan Cup is 8th, 0.5 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Andres Camilo Cardona is P8 battling Santiago Idarraga. Santiago Idarraga was 3.4 faster last lap. Andres Camilo Cardona lost P8 to Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Carlos Guerin is P6, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Andres Camilo Cardona entering the pits is P9. Juan Martin Acuna in Cup Klein Cup is P3, 0.3 ahead of Leonardo Bustamante. Leonardo Bustamante was 2.8 faster last lap. Andres Camilo Cardona exiting pits. Juan Carlos Guerin in Cup Klein Cup on lap 4 is 6th, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia in Cup VW Sachsenring is P8, 0.5 behind Santiago Idarraga.
Juan Carlos Guerin is 6th, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Leonardo Bustamante in Cup Klein Cup is P4, 0.5 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Carlos Guerin in Cup Klein Cup is 6th, 0.3 behind Alejandro Arango. Leonardo Bustamante is P4, 0.2 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Leonardo Bustamante passed Juan Martin Acuna for P3. Juan Martin Acuna from Colombia in Sachsenring is P6, 0.1 ahead of Santiago Idarraga. Santiago Idarraga was 1.1 faster last lap. Juan Martin Acuna lost P6 to Santiago Idarraga. Alejandro Arango from Colombia in Coca-Cola Cup is P5. Best lap is a 1:15.886. 0.940 off the fastest lap. Alejandro Arango passed Juan Carlos Guerin for 4th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal entering the pits is 8th. J.Enriquez from Colombia in blind Adapa Links is 2nd, 0.6 behind Juan Martin Botero. Alex Borsov in Omega Cup is 11th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal exiting pits. J.Enriquez in Carthalan Cup is P2. Best lap is a 1:15.159. 0.213 off the fastest lap. Juan Carlos Guerin is 5th, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. J.Enriquez is 2nd, 0.8 behind Juan Martin Botero. Juan Carlos Guerin is 5th, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. J.Enriquez in blind Adapa Links is P2, 1.0 behind Juan Martin Botero.
Juan Carlos Guerin in Blinda Doppel-Links is 5th, 0.3 behind Alejandro Arango. J.Enriquez in Omega Cup is P2. Best lap is a 1:15.003. 0.075 off the fastest lap. Andres Camilo Cardona in Coca-Cola Cup is 8th, 0.5 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Carlos Guerin in Blinda Doppel-Links is P5, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Leonardo Bustamante in Omega Cup on lap 10 is P3, 0.9 behind J.Enriquez. J.Enriquez in Paralager 1 Cup is 2nd, 0.6 behind Juan Martin Botero. Juan Carlos Guerin is P5, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Leonardo Bustamante in Omega Cup is P3, 0.5 behind J.Enriquez. Juan Carlos Guerin in Omega Cup on lap 11 is P5, 0.4 behind Alejandro Arango. Juan Carlos Guerin was 0.9 faster last lap. Alex Borsov entering the pits is P11. J.Enriquez in Keckenberg Cup is P2, 0.6 behind Juan Martin Botero. Juan Carlos Guerin in Keckenberg Cup is P5, 0.3 behind Alejandro Arango. Leonardo Bustamante in Omega Cup on lap 12 is P3, 0.3 behind J.Enriquez. Alex Borsov exiting pits. Alejandro Arango in Omega Cup is P5, 0.3 behind Juan Carlos Guerin. Alejandro Arango lost P5 to Santiago Idarraga. Leonardo Bustamante in Keckenberg Cup is P2, 0.5 behind Javier Enriquez. Juan Martin Acuna is 8th. Leonardo Bustamante in Cup Klein Cup is P2, 0.3 behind Javier Enriquez. Juan Carlos Guerin in Cup VW Sachsenring is P4. Leonardo Bustamante is P2, 0.5 behind Javier Enriquez. Andres Camilo Cardona is 7th, 1.8 behind Alejandro Arango. Andres Camilo Cardona was 19.8 faster last lap. Leonardo Bustamante on lap 14 is P2, 0.4 behind Javier Enriquez. Javier Enriquez in Sachsenring is P1, 0.7 ahead of Leonardo Bustamante. Leonardo Bustamante in Omega Cup is 2nd, 0.6 behind Javier Enriquez. Andres Camilo Cardona entering the pits is 7th. Andres Camilo Cardona is 7th. Juan Martin Acuna is 8th. Juan Martin Acuna passed Andres Camilo Cardona for P7. Leonardo Bustamante in Keckenberg Cup is 2nd, 1.1 behind Javier Enriquez. Leonardo Bustamante entering the pits is 2nd. Juan Carlos Guerin in Sachsenring is 4th. Andres Camilo Cardona exiting pits. Juan Carlos Guerin lost P4 to Santiago Idarraga. Leonardo Bustamante is 3rd. Leonardo Bustamante exiting pits. Leonardo Bustamante is now P5. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Cup Klein Cup is P10, 0.4 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Juan Pablo Aristizabal was 37.5 faster last lap. Juan Pablo Aristizabal passed Andres Camilo Cardona for P9. J.Enriquez is first. Carlos Huertas from Colombia on lap 15 is P8. J.Enriquez is second, 4.3 ahead of Juan Carlos Guarin. J.Enriquez was 10.9 faster last lap. J.Enriquez exiting pits. J.Enriquez lost P3 to Santiago Idarraga. Alejandro Arango in Keckenberg is 6th. Alejandro Arango entering the pits is P6. Alex Borsov in Faraliger 1 Cup is 11th. Best lap is a 1:24.957. 10.625 off the fastest lap. Leonardo Bustamante is 5th, 0.2 behind J.Enriquez. Leonardo Bustamante was 17.8 faster last lap. Juan Martin Botero is first. Juan Martin Botero entering the pits is first. Carlos Huertas entering the pits is P8. Juan Carlos Guarin in Keckenberg Cup on lap 17 is P2, 3.3 ahead of Santiago Idarraga. Juan Carlos Guarin was 2.4 faster last lap. Juan Carlos Guarin is now first. J.Enriquez entering the pits is 5th. J.Enriquez is P5. Juan Martin Botero exiting pits. Alex Borsov in Karthalankov is P11. J.Enriquez exiting pits. Carlos Huertas exiting pits. Leonardo Bustamante from Colombia in Karthalankov is third, 4.7 ahead of Juan Martin Botero. Alejandro Arango entering the pits is P7. Alejandro Arango is P7. Alejandro Arango exiting pits. Andres Camilo Cardona in Coca-Cola Cup is 9. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia in Faraliger 1 Cup is P8, 4.1 behind Alejandro Arango. Juan Pablo Aristizabal was 18.3 faster last lap. Carlos Huertas entering the pits is P10. Juan Pablo Aristizabal entering the pits is P8. Juan Carlos Guarin entering the pits is first. Juan Martin Acuna in Faraliger 1 Cup is 5th, 3.9 ahead of J.Enriquez. Carlos Huertas exiting pits. Juan Pablo Aristizabal exiting pits. Carlos Huertas in Coca-Cola Cup is P10, 0.1 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Carlos Guerin exiting pits. Andres Camilo Cardona in Farrelliger 1 Cup is P8. Alejandro Arango in Omega Cup is P7. Best lap is a 1:15.374. 1.042 off the fastest lap. Juan Carlos Guerin in Keckenberg Cup is P6. Juan Carlos Guerin entering the pits is P6. Juan Carlos Guerin exiting pits. Andres Camilo Cardona on lap 20 is 8th. J.Enriquez in Keckenberg Cup is P5, 3.2 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Martin Acuna entering the pits is P4. J.Enriquez passed Juan Martin Acuna for P4. Carlos Huertas in Keckenberg Cup is 10th. Juan Martin Acuna exiting pits. Santiago Idarraga in Keckenberg Cup is first, 5.0 ahead of Leonardo Bustamante. Santiago Idarraga entering the pits is P1. Andres Camilo Cardona in Coca-Cola Cup is P8. Santiago Idarraga is P3. Best lap is a 1:15.733. 1.796 off the fastest lap. Santiago Idarraga exiting pits. Santiago Idarraga lost P3 to J.Enriquez. Alejandro Arango is 7th. J.Enriquez in blinded double links on lap 23 is P3, 4.2 ahead of Santiago Idarraga. J.Enriquez was 10.3 faster last lap. Juan Martin Acuna in blind doppel is P6. Santiago Idarraga entering the pits is P4. Santiago Idarraga is P4. Juan Martin Botero in CAV Klein Cup is second. Santiago Idarraga exiting pits. Juan Martin Acuna from Colombia in Omega Cup is P5, 4.2 ahead of Santiago Idarraga. Juan Martin Acuna was 33.3 faster last lap. Juan Martin Botero in Ngang Omega Cup is second. Juan Carlos Courin in Omega Cup is fourth. Juan Martin Acuna in Carthalan Cup is fifth. Santiago Idarraga in Sachsenring is sixth, 1.3 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Keckenberg Cup on lap 25 is 9th, 4.8 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Santiago Idarraga is P6, 1.5 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Santiago Idarraga was 3.6 faster last lap. Alex Borsov entering the pits is 11th. Andres Camilo Cardona on lap 26 is P8, 1.4 behind Alejandro Arango. Alex Borsov exiting pits. Santiago Idarraga in CAV Klein Cup is 6th, 1.8 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Andres Camilo Cardona from Colombia in Cup Klein Cup is 8th, 0.5 behind Alejandro Arango. Alejandro Arango in Farrelager 1 Cup is 8th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Keckenberg Cup on lap 27 is P9. Juan Pablo Aristizabal passed Alejandro Arango for P8. Alejandro Arango entering the pits is 9. Alejandro Arango exiting pits. Santiago Idarraga is 6th, 0.9 behind Juan Martin Acuna. J.Enriquez in Cup Klein Cup is P3. Santiago Idarraga in Ingang Omega Cup is 6th, 0.4 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Coca-Cola Cup is P8, 0.5 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Juan Pablo Aristizabal was 0.9 faster last lap. Santiago Idarraga in Sachsenring Cup is P6, 0.8 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Santiago Idarraga was 1.2 faster last lap. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Sachsenring Cup is 8th, 0.5 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Juan Carlos Guerin in Carthalan Cup is P4. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Ingang Omega Cup is P8, 0.4 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Santiago Idarraga from Spain in Keckenberg Cup is P6, 0.7 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Sachsenring Cup is P8, 0.5 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Carlos Huertas entering the pits is 10.
Santiago Idarraga in Carthalincup is P6, 0.7 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Cup Klein Cup is P8, 0.4 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. Santiago Idarraga from Spain in Keckenberg Cup is 6th, 0.4 behind Juan Martin Acuna. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Sachsenring is 8th, 0.2 behind Andres Camilo Cardona. The leader has just finished the race. Leonardo Bustamante finished P1. Alex Borsov finished 11th. Juan Martin Botero finished 2nd. Alejandro Arango finished P9. J.Enriquez finished 3rd. Juan Carlos Guillerin finished P4. Juan Martin Acuna finished P5. Santiago Idarraga finished 6th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal finished P7. Andres Camilo Cardona finished 8th.